Let her go, she's pregnant! Let her go, she's pregnant!
Terrible complaints about human rights violations against immigrants by the Department of Homeland Security, according to Senator of Georgia Jon Ossoff. Esta es la cosa. Sexual abuse of immigrants by ICE operatives and mistreatment of pregnant women by Homeland Security, denounced by Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff of Georgia. Jon Ossoff held a press conference to release a report on human rights violations against immigrants under the discriminatory policies of Homeland Security under the administration of Donald Trump. Since January 2025, Ossoff's team began gathering information on the treatment by the U.S. immigration system and other agencies, and this is what they found. Ossoff said that his investigation received 510 credible complaints, including 41 instances of physical and sexual abuse of people in the custody of the Department of Homeland Security. The mistreatment included beatings by officials and placing people in solitary confinements for reporting these kind of abuses. According to the senator, there were also 16 credible cases of mistreatment of pregnant women and 18 credible reports of mistreatment of children in immigration detention centers. The information comes from dozens of witnesses, correctional officers, public safety officials, lawyers, relatives of detainees, doctors, nurses, on-site inspections, and analysis of public complaints. There are 46 interviews that make up this report, and they are the result from on-site inspections of Ossoff's team, detention centers such as El Paso Service Processing Center in Texas, the South Texas Family Residential Center, known as Dilley, the Stewart Detention Center, and the FCI in Atlanta, Georgia. Although the reports of the complaints are not exhaustive, Ossoff says his team will continue to confirm the information in these reports through interviews and through gathering more information, and that this investigation is ongoing. The report includes 510 credible reports of abuse involving agencies such as Homeland Security, led by Secretary Kristi Noem, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, or BOP, headed by William Billy K. Marshall, the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, led by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The complaints also come from local jails, federal buildings, and even military bases such as Guantanamo Bay in Cuba and Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti. The document also includes deportation charter flights. Ossoff also said in his report that these actions of oversight over the Department of Homeland Security have received interference and obstruction from the same agency. But here are the details of the cases of abuse reported. At the El Paso Service Processing Center in Texas, a detainee was thrown to the ground, handcuffed, and taken outside for stepping out of line in the dining hall. Guards nearly broke his wrists. At the Adelanto ICE Processing Center in California, at least 2 911 calls reported sexual assaults or threats of sexual assaults. At the South Texas ICE Processing Center, there were at least 4 emergency calls related to sexual abuse since January. At the Border Patrol CBP facility, at least 7 detainees were forced to remain in a stressed position as punishment for laughing or just simply talking. A 2025 Memorandum of Understanding allows DHS, Department of Homeland Security, to send detainees to BOP prisons when local facilities are overcrowded, although immigrants are supposed to remain separate from inmates. One case documented one detainee placed in a prison dormitory for behavioral management where he was assaulted by an inmate. At the Federal Detention Center in Miami, detainees reported being held for hours in a small room with one single toilet and no food, water, or medical assistance. When they protested by flooding the bathroom, officers threw stun grenades and fired rubber bullets. The immigrants were also zip-tied so tightly that their wrists were cut when they asked for food or medicine. These are the abuses against pregnant women. Ossoff report includes 14 credible reports of pregnant women being mistreated in custody of the Department of Homeland Security. An anonymous official said he saw pregnant women sleeping on the floor in overcrowded intake cells. The partner of a pregnant detainee reported that she had been bleeding for days before being taken to a hospital. There, she was left alone without water or medical care for more than 24 hours until she miscarried. Another pregnant woman nearly lost her pregnancy twice while in ICE custody. One detainee said that despite repeatedly requesting medical attention, she was told to just drink water instead of being examined. Lawyers reported that their pregnant clients have waited weeks to see a doctor and that their appointments were canceled. These are the cases of mistreatment of children by ICE and DHS. Ossoff report includes 18 credible complaints of mistreatment of children as young as 2 in DHS custody. A U.S. citizen girl with serious medical problems was hospitalized 3 times while in CBP custody with her mother. When she began vomiting blood, a guard said, "Give her a cookie." A 10-year-old U.S. citizen girl recovering from a brain surgery was detained with her family and denied follow-up care, resulting in persistent brain swelling and speech and mobility difficulties. A 4-year-old boy undergoing treatment for metastatic cancer was detained and deported without being able to see a doctor. And which states had the most reports of abuse? Most cases of physical and sexual abuse, mistreatment of pregnant women, and mistreatment of children occur in facilities in Texas with 29 reports, Georgia in second place with 13, and California with 12. Who responded to Jon Ossoff and his report? DHS issued a statement signed by Deputy Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, responding to the Ossoff report by calling the senator's accusations false and claiming that immigrants in custody have access to comprehensive medical care, including regular prenatal checkups, mental health care, and nutritional support for pregnant women. DHS denied that pregnant women had been forced to sleep on the floor. McLaughlin also defended the medical care provided to children and concluded by calling Ossoff's allegations garbage and blaming these kind of messages as part of the reason of a 1,000% increase in assaults against ICE officers. This video was inspired by an article published in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Now, Ossoff's report in favor of immigrants makes sense in an electoral context. His action don't occur in a vacuum. In November 2026, the Georgia Senate seat will be up for election, and Ossoff is seeking re-election. This race is extremely important for defining the Senate majority in Washington and will draw significant attention. Republicans have not yet decided who their candidate will be. In this context, Ossoff raised more than $11 million during the first quarter of 2025 and over $41 million in the previous quarter. One possible challenger is Georgia Congressman Buddy Carter, who has raised $3.5 million to date. From Estes La Cosa, We value that elected officials like Ossoff are auditing the institutions and officials involved in human rights violations against immigrants under the Department of Homeland Security. But more is needed. It is essential that Senators Ossoff and Raphael Warnock provide more support to organizations protecting and defending the rights of immigrants of all nationalities in Georgia. For example, free or low-cost legal aid is a priority for the community. Esta es la cosa the Latino community must resist in these difficult times. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on other platforms.
No digan nada, tienen derecho a quedarse callados. No digan nada, no firmen nada. I can say whatever I want.